Hello everyone, and on this lesson we are going to practice and we are going to take all the knowledge we accumulated to this moment and we will try to build a simple scene. So I will start with a primitive and it is going to be disk or plane, it doesn't matter too much. This is going to be the basement for our scene. And let's scale it, and I'm going to make it quite big. We are not going to measure anything in this scene. It's not going to be precise. And I will rename my object to Earth. So what we are going to do, what we are going to make, we are going to make a snowman. And here we have our first sphere to start, and I want to level the sphere exactly with the Earth, and it is going to be almost impossible if we will want to eyeball it. So we will use our pivot and we will snap this pivot to the bottom part of the sphere, and later we will snap it to our grid. So at first we need to find this bottom vertex, and we will use a snapping to the points. We can find it on top where our magnets sitting, or we can just press V on the keyboard and this will activate snapping to the points. So what I will need to do, I will click on D. I will make sure that central part of my manipulator is selected. I will click V and snap pivot point to the bottom vertex of a sphere. So I hold D, I hold V, and I middle mouse and hover over a vertex. I hope it's clear. And now when our pivot is in correct position, I can snap whole object to the grid. Since we didn't move our plane on y-axis, it is going to be perfectly positioned on the Earth. So with the X pushed, I move my sphere and I will scale it. Since our pivot is staying in the basement of the sphere, you can see all scaling is going to be from this point. Is going to happen from this point. And I will clone the sphere. I will scale it, move it a little bit up, and press Shift R to duplicate with transform. Adjust head a little bit, and this is going to be our basement of a snowman. So the next thing I want to create is his arms, and I will take a head of a snowman, and this is going to be the basement for the arm. To do it correctly, I will go to orthogonal view and we can duplicate our head from here because I want my hands to be perfectly symmetrical. on the x-axis, or we can just use red handle of manipulator, or we can use these blue square to exclude z-axis. And now it is not convenient to have a pivot point not in the center, so with center pivot I will move it to the center and scale this object a little bit. And I will clone this object a couple of times to get easy spherical hand. Something like this. And I want to group this object and symmetrize it to the left side, to his right side. So I will select all of the objects and press Ctrl G to have a group. And since we just created a group, our pivot of the group is now perfectly in the center of the world. So I will name the hand and what we will be able to do now, we will be able to use a rotate tool, and with a J pressed we will use rotation with the increments to rotate the arm to 180 degrees. So let's do it. Be sure y-axis selected, press J, press shift and rotate and duplicate the arm. So as you can see, clone with a shift is possible not only with the move tool but with the rotate tool too. And here we have our group mirrored over the x-axis. So the next thing I want to create is a hat for him. It is going to be just a cone, and I will position this cone over his head, and I want to make it larger but not on the y-axis, only on the z and x. So I will use green square to enlarge it. Maybe a little bigger, a bit wider. Easy as that. And I want to make a nose for him. He will have a classical carrot nose. We will duplicate this cone, and with a J pressed we can rotate this cone on the x-axis, on the red axis. So I will rotate it 90 to 90 degrees, and I want to make carrot thinner. So we will use a green square for it again, because we don't want to make carrot longer, we just want to make it thicker. Thinner, I mean, excuse my English, thinner, I mean, something like that. So again, we excluded one axis from the transformations, and let's move on. So the next thing I want to create is the eyes. This is just going to be spheres, so I will scale them and position them on his face. And I want my eyes to be symmetrical too. So one more way we can duplicate our object and still have it symmetrical is to use a translate graph. Right now we can see that our eye in translate x graph is translated to 0.634. So if we will duplicate this eye and add a minus 0.634, we will have it on our other side, perfectly symmetrical. I think that's it for the eyes, and let's move further. So I will add a torus, and it is going to be his mouse. Here in the inputs we can decrease a little bit radius and section radius to make his lips a bit thinner. Something like that will do. And let's scale them on the z-axis and maybe on the y-axis too a little bit, and let's rotate his lips with a J shortcut to rotate with the increments to 90 degrees, and let's position his mouse. Here we will need just to eyeball the position of the mouse. Looking good. Okay, so let's add some kind of a stick to his arm. I will add a cylinder. And I will scale it with a green square to make it thinner, and I will increase the height or the length of this stick, and I will just randomly position it into his arm. And here I think we will talk a little bit about the local and global orientation. As you can see, our gizmo, our scale gizmo is a bit rotated right now, and it uses local coordinates of the stick right now. That means the coordination system was rotated with the stick, while our global coordinates are always staying still. Our local coordinates are rotating with the object, and this will allow us to transform this stick correctly. I will show you in a second. So you can see the difference between the gizmos right now. And at first, gizmo is the same as world coordinates. But if we will rotate this object, of course, the scale and rotate gizmo will rotate too. If we are using local coordinates. So what these local coordinates allow us to do is to scale objects like this properly. So you can see everything is scaling logically. The length of the stick is increasing and decreasing. But imagine our gizmo will be oriented the same as the world coordinates. We can find scale tool, and if we will double click on it, the first option we will have is axis orientation. And we have object axis orientation set right now. That's actually local orientation. But if I will change this axis orientation to world, the gizmo will be positioned as my world coordinate. So if I will now scale the stick, you can see it is not scaling as we expect it to scale. So sometimes you will use local coordinates, sometimes you will use global coordinates. From the both axis orientations, you can benefit a lot. I hope it's clear right now. Here I'm just trying to visualize it for you a little bit. But if now it's not clear still, I'm sure you will understand it during the rest of the course. It is not really a hard thing to understand. So let's move on right now, and I want also to create a couple of trees. And I don't exactly remember how these tree called in English, probably a pine or a spruce probably. And I will move my pivot to the base of this cylinder with a D and V pressed, as we did with the base of our snowman. And I will create a cone. And I want to center this cone to the cylinder. So since we have vertex in the center of the cylinder and the pivot in the center of cone, it is going to be easy to do. Just be sure you selected central part of manipulator before you snap with a V key. And here I will clone and rotate a little bit this cone a couple of times. I will scale it too. So we will have easy cartoony tree. and I will group the whole tree and rename it. And I will make a couple of duplications of a whole group. So the last thing I want to do is probably to add some object from the content browser. You can take animal or any object you like really to accomplish this scene. And I will take a cat, and you can see that material on a cat is different from any other object we have on the scene right now, and it's okay. So I will just position my cat a little bit differently, and I think our scene is ready right now. On the next lesson, we will look how we can render this scene easily.